Welcome back. Marc Rudov, branding advisor to CEOs and author of 3 books: Be Unique or Be Ignored, Brand is Destiny, and my latest, Intra Branding. You can get all of them at markrudov.com/books. I'm going to talk to you today about how the Democrats have changed your nature. Whether you realize it or not, it affects your life, how you relate to your friends, your family, and your coworkers, and how your life is going to change going forward in ways that you don't like, in ways that you didn't anticipate. Now, there's a great James Bond movie with Daniel Craig called Skyfall. The villain in the movie is called Raul Silva, and he's played by the Spanish actor Javier Bardem. Now, the scene here is that James Bond is now captive on an island off Japan, and Raul Silva controls this island, and James Bond is handcuffed to a chair. Raul Silva comes down the elevator, and he enters this massive room filled with computers and wires, and this is his way of controlling everything that happens into the world, in the world from his keyboard. So he approaches James Bond in the chair, and he gives him a philosophy lesson. Now, instead of showing you the clip from the movie, I'm going to read it to you. And the reason is, I don't want the hassles of copyright infringement, and also Javier's a little bit difficult to hear, and it's important that you hear everything he has to say. So here goes. Hello, James. Welcome. Do you like the island? My grandmother had an island. Nothing to boast of. You could walk around it in an hour, but still it was a paradise for us. One summer we went for a visit and discovered the place had been infested with rats. They'd come on a fishing boat and gorged themselves on coconut. So how do you get rats off an island? My grandmother showed me. We buried an oil drum and hinged the lid. Then we wired coconut to the lid as bait, and the rats would come for the coconut, and they would fall into the drum. Plink, 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 plink. And after a month, you have trapped all the rats. But what do you do then? Throw the drum into the ocean? Burn it? No. You just leave it, and they begin to get hungry. And one by one, they start eating each other until there are only 2 left, the 2 survivors. And then what? Do you kill them? No. You take them and release them into the trees. But now they don't eat coconut anymore. Now they eat only rat. You have changed their nature. What a powerful metaphor for what has changed in the United States of America. The Democrats have changed our nature by instilling panoramic Marxism in every institution we have in this country. Now, let me show you how that looks. As you can see, there's a terrified guy in the middle. That's you. And he's surrounded by school. Every graduate now is an AOC clone. You have corporations where they're forcing BLM down your throat, climate change down your throat, whiteness is bad down your throat. Then you have the government. Same thing. Just the other day, the Secretary of Defense told us that climate change is our biggest threat. Really? How about Iran? How about China? What's he going to do? Launch a missile at God? Then you have big tech, social media. Sports? You couldn't tune in a basketball game without having BLM shoved down your throat. And then finally, mainstream media, which about at least 95% of people watch in this country. So it's climate change, whiteness is bad, and men and women are interchangeable. Now, at his rallies, Donald Trump used to say that the fake news just doesn't get it. And every night on his show, Greg Kelly likes to do an imitation of Trump saying that. What?
The fake news just doesn't get it, do they? They don't.
Now, I have news for you, Greg. With all due respect, love your show, but the fake news just does get it. And they're winning. Because on the fake news, people who watch it don't know anything. They don't know anything about the Hunter Biden story. They don't know that on January 6th, Trump told people to go down to the Capitol and make their voices heard peacefully and patriotically. They don't know that. Because the mainstream media are in the tank with the Democrats, and that affects what happens in this country. That affects the legislation that comes out of Washington. So this is extremely important to understand that no matter where you turn, 360 degrees, you have Marxism everywhere. And I blame the Republicans for allowing it to happen. Now, Marxism doesn't just show up in a country overnight. It comes in gradually, in 4 steps. Back in the 60s, Nikita Khrushchev, who was the premier of the Soviet Union, and for you millennials and Gen Zers who don't know history, that was when John F. Kennedy was our president. And Nikita Khrushchev said, we're going to overtake America. And we're going to do it without firing one bullet. It's going to happen because your country is going to collapse. Because little by little, Marxism is going to creep into your country. You'll see. And boy, was he right. Now, here are the 4 steps to Marxism, which we have and are experiencing. Number 1, demoralize. So they're calling us racists, transphobics, and climate deniers. What it does is it makes people hate themselves. That's required, because when they hate themselves, they become malleable. Step number 2, destabilize, riots, tent cities, open borders. And you have kids killing themselves because they can't go to school. Number 3, Russia hoax, fake impeachments, lockdowns, razor wire around the Capitol. That's the disruption. And finally, step number 4, normalize. Now that you've experienced all of this dystopia is your new normal, and your nature has changed. The old normal doesn't exist anymore. Pretty frightening, isn't it? But as I said, this affects everything in your life. We're told you shouldn't wear masks. Then we're told you should wear masks. Then we're told you have to get the vaccine. And then we're told even after you get the vaccine, you still have to wear a mask. So they're just prolonging it. But the point is, you look at little kids in the street wearing masks. I don't think they'll ever remember a time when they weren't wearing masks. This is the new normal. Your nature has changed. And again, this affects how malleable you are. And so the government has increasingly more control over your life. It's now normal for a man to be on a girls' sports team. People don't like it, and they're afraid to speak up about it because they'll get whacked, they'll get canceled, they'll get fired. If you deny climate change, you'll get fired. If you say there are only 2 genders, you'll get fired. That's the new normal. So our nature has changed. Can we change it back? Well, that's up to us. We have to say enough is enough. We have to fight back. We have to risk it all. If you look at the painting of George Washington crossing the Delaware, which is hanging in my office, you look at these guys and you realize they risked everything. A lot of them had nothing to eat but their shoes. And that's if they had shoes in the middle of winter. So every time I think to myself, should I make a video like this or not? I look at this painting and I say, if those guys had guts, I should have guts. And I'm going to say the same thing to you. you should have guts too. Otherwise, your job is going to become pretty boring and pretty scary because you won't be able to do anything unless without fearing retribution. That is no way to live, but that is the life today. We must put an end to it. This is Marc Rudov, branding advisor to CEOs. Find me at marcrudov.com. I look forward to hearing from you.